Hi everyone, Ted Wyman here with another edition of On the Rocks, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Saskatchewan men's curling champion Matt Dunstone. Matt is originally from Winnipeg. He lives in Kamloops, BC. He represents Saskatchewan, and he's kind of all over the curling map in that sense. But Matt, I think purely a curler at heart. Would that be the proper way to put it?
Yes, absolutely. And, to curl in Western Canada too, what better place to be? So, yeah, definitely a curler at heart.
And really, Team Saskatchewan as a province has really adopted you as part of their province in terms of representing them. And then something happened pretty cool here leading into the Brier, where your team went to Wadena, Saskatchewan. I think it's about 1,300 people, a couple hours north of Regina. And the town really adopted you guys to give you an opportunity to practice up for the Brier. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a small town prairie story to a T, isn't it? Just Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, like all those people in the small town, so hospitable. And yeah, what a cool little story. Great to be representing Wadena here at the Brier. And we actually got sent a video yesterday. Basically, a bunch of people in the town, whether it be at their restaurants or their small businesses that they own, all wishing us good luck. And Scotty Comfort and Dustin McCush compiled that video together and sent it our way. It's like a 3-4 minute video of everybody in the town wishing us good luck. And yeah, what an awesome little story. It was fantastic experience getting to rent a house for 2 weeks and basically doing nothing but watching curling and going and practicing and hanging out with the guys. And
How about
that's
eating great food?
and eating fantastic food. Yeah, definitely put a little on the love handles over here. Uh, Based on how I'm not used to eating dessert, and every meal we had a dessert to it too, and you gotta try it. And yeah, we ate fantastic. It was such a valuable opportunity for our team too. We hadn't been together since middle of November pretty much, and to spend those 2 weeks together nonstop, had a lot of laughs. Did a little betting on the Scotties, and just had some fun.
Well, and barely as a team were you together at all when you consider that you had brought in a new team member in Kirk Myers, and he needs a little time to fit in and to kind of bond with the group and start to feel part of the team. And that probably worked in that sense as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. What better way to bond with people than to move in and live with them, right? So, yeah, fantastic addition. We've been able to grow a lot faster as a team, considering this is our only 13th game together. We've been definitely able to fast track that, and Kirk's world class player, world class athlete, world class person. So, it's been a pretty seamless transition, and really happy with what we have right now.
So as we speak, you guys are 2-1. You had a tough loss against John Epping of Ontario, who's obviously one of the top teams in this thing. How do you feel it's gone so far? Do you feel like you're building towards what your goal is? Because I know, and I'm going to ask you this eventually, you're here to win this thing. There's no just showing up and having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That last night was a tough loss, and a game we basically controlled from end one to nine. We felt, and what we took out of that was we created opportunities, and not just one or two to win a game. We created a lot of them. Didn't capitalize on any of them, and that's a me issue. But I mean, the three guys in front of me just did nothing but create opportunities for us to put that game away, and that's something we looked into. And if we can continue to do that against teams like Epping, Gushu, Kui, McHugh, Jacobs, Botcher, if we can create those opportunities against those teams, it's going to be a really good week for us.
Well, you did win a bronze medal last year at the Brier. You really performed very well, and your whole team did well. But you come back here, and really, there's nowhere to look but up for you. I mean, you were very focused on one day winning this thing, and I get the sense that you feel like you're pretty close to having the right team for it now.
Yeah, you know what? We're ready, and whether that's this time around or not, we feel really ready. I mean, to come out and say we totally expect ourselves to leave with a gold medal in a field like this is an insane statement, because you never know, because there's so many good teams. But if we do find ourselves near the final at the end of the week, this team is ready to finish it off.
Well, that's great. So just switching subjects a little bit, Matt, there was a 15-1 game today at the Brier between Quebec and Nunavut. You and I have talked many times about kind of the field and which teams should be in the field, whether provincial representation and territorial representation is truly the right thing to have in order to make up the best Canadian championship. I mean, you're there now, so I understand that it's important for all these teams to be there and have their chance. But when you see a score like that, what goes through your mind?
My mind instantly goes to the Canada Cup, and that's an event we have to open up immediately to continue to minimize those numbers in that event. I think it was going to be 6 or 5 this year. Just ludicrous. We can't be doing that. The Canada Cup has to open right up to 12, 16 CTRS teams. That's where we're going to get our Tardies, our Calverts, our Horgans, Sturmays, Hardys, McDonald's, all those other teams that are in tough provinces. That's why the Canada Cup has to immediately open up. No questions asked. Like that's an easy change. And the part about the Brier is the provincial representation and how special that is in the history of the Brier. So I understand that part of the Brier can't necessarily change. And it is unfortunate at times that scores can run up like that. But I had a chance to talk to the Nunavut guys quite a bit when we had played against them, and they're fantastic guys. They're so happy to be here, and they're really enjoying themselves, which is nice to see, because when you do see that, it reminds you again your love for the game and why you play the game, because those guys are playing with that sort of passion too. So it's very nice to see people and meet people like that who play the game for all the right reasons. But in regards to the Brier format, it's never going to change, but the Canada Cup immediately has to change. No questions asked.
Well, there's no question that there's a greatness to the Brier. There's a greatness to all of that. And the Scotties, that you have so many teams from so many parts of the country. There are very few championships anywhere that have quite that dynamic to it. But I think what you're trying to say, and I think what a lot of curlers are trying to say, is that maybe that format is not the best way to decide your Canadian champion, because in some ways it excludes very high level teams from being able to participate in it. And you named some of those teams. And if you had all of those teams in the Canada Cup and then decided you're Canadian champion out of that, it might give you a little bit better, not just a balance in terms of the representation you get, but it also might help grow the game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the part that's missing right now is our Canadian teams that I had mentioned, like the Tardies and Horgans and those teams. They're not in the slams right now either. They're just on the outside of the slams, right? And they're not getting to the Brier, and our Canada Cup is so closed in that they're not really getting that big game TV exposure against the best teams in the game right now, unless it's in a smaller World Curling Tour event somewhere. And that's how we develop our sport. And that's how I've developed as fast as I was lucky enough to go out and play the best teams in the world and get my butt kicked quite often by them, but you learn so much just by playing them. And there's no avenue in Canada right now for the teams that aren't in the slams and are just losing out in their provincial final because they're playing against heavyweights. So that's why the Canada Cup, it's qualified through CTRS ranking. So what that does is it promotes going out to play. Because if you need to make top 12 or top 14 CTRS, what that does is just gets the wheels turning on what events you got to go play. And it promotes playing and practicing, and it gives all those teams more hope, I think. I don't know if maybe that's lack of a better term, but just to get them at that exposure on the big stage on TV, just so when they do get to the Brier, it's not when they're, whether it be at age 24 or whether it be age 33 or 34, then it's not their first time on the big show, right? They develop that much faster, as opposed to getting to the Brier the first time at 35 years old and then dealing with it. That's the first time they've been there. And it totally stunts development until a later age in a person's life.
And I think just it's important to be clear that neither of us is talking about eliminating the Brier in any way. The Brier is obviously still a very important, iconic event in this country. And it's great that you can continue to have that provincial representation, opportunity for a true national championship in that sense. But I do think that there are some people who believe that, maybe the top level curlers who put in the amount of time that they put in, and even the next tier who are trying to do that, kind of need their own avenue for qualifying for Worlds, Olympics, things like that.
For sure. And another idea I kind of have, like with our national championship right now, we have the wild card team, or we have the 3 wild card teams this time around, and maybe that sticks. I hope it does. And if it does stick, what I think we have to start doing is, first off, eliminate the wild card as a whole. I think you have your Manitoba 1, 2, or Saskatchewan 1, 2, you name it. I think keep that provincially, eliminate the wild card. And I think we have to appoint those teams before provincials. So I think if there's X number of wild card berths, those get given to the CTRS teams in order, and they can be Saskatchewan 1 or Manitoba 1, you name it, at the Brier or the Scotties. And what that does is it pulls those teams out from their provincial championship because they got their spot in the national championship already. And you pull those teams out of the provincials. Suddenly, I mean, for example, you pull Jacobs out of Northern Ontario, suddenly everybody's licking their chops because they don't have to deal with Jacobs anymore. And I think that's another avenue to promote the sport within the province itself. And to get those teams, like I know there was a scenario a few years back where Gushu didn't have anybody to play in Newfoundland, right? And when you pull Gushu out of Newfoundland, it's a free for all. Everybody's jumping at the bit because there's their chance to get into the Brier, right? So I think if we're going to continue to stick the wild card route, I think get rid of wild card and just name it. There's nothing wrong with, we have 2 Ontarios in there, for instance, already. So
Yeah.
we can have multiple provinces represented in a national championship. I don't see an issue with that. And when we pull teams out of a provincial championship and open up that provincial championship a little bit more, I think that does nothing but good things for the teams that aren't the top full-time curlers.
I have never really heard that idea before, Matt. It's really an interesting one. You take I think what we look at right now is a situation where, say, Jennifer Jones is named Team Manitoba this year. It did work out that other teams from Manitoba were able to get in as wild cards in the Scotties, but what you're saying is Jennifer Jones wouldn't even play in the provincials because of that. And then someone else would have a chance to go and win that provincial, which obviously that would be great for their team and for their mentality going forward as well. And it's almost, that's a pretty small tweak. And really the addition of the extra couple of wildcard teams, which was done this year specifically because of the COVID-19 pandemic and playing in a bubble, kind of is a compromise towards some of the things you've been talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And you look at teams like Beth Peterson and Mackenzie Zacharias and how they were the talk at the Scotties, right? And the great week they had. And like you said, you pull Jennifer Jones out of there and Carrie Anderson's Team Canada, and then it's Fleury, Peterson, and Zacharias, and then the teams under it opens up the field, right? Obviously, Fleury would be your mainstay in that field, but it opens it up, right? And I think that's the direction we start going, is start appointing these wildcard teams, or the CTRS teams, whatever you want to call them. My opinion would be Manitoba 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
Start appointing them before the provincials, and it opens up provincials. Totally opens it up. And on the marketing side of it too, if we're appointing teams, if the cutoff's October 31st or November 31st, it gives Curling Canada an opportunity to market more teams than just Team Canada who are actually going to be at the Brier and the Scotties as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And this year we ended up with, I think, the top 9 teams in the CTRS in the Brier, which would suggest to me that those are 9 teams that could probably win this thing. You're starting to look pretty good in that situation. Like, that's looking like a pretty darn good field, and the Brier's starting to look pretty competitive, because how are you going to get a better champion out of anything than having the top 9 teams there?
Well, exactly. And we've been fortunate over many years that typically the cream has risen to the top in our national championship. So that's why there's no big need for a drastic change, because for the most part, the best teams are winning and continuing to win at our national championship.
True. But again, like you brought up the name Tyler Tardy, and now Jacques Gauthier coming up out of Manitoba, various other teams around this country that are clearly the future of curling.
Yeah. But
how long is it going to take them to get there? And I think that's what you want to see, is some improvements made so that it doesn't take quite so long.
Well, totally. And I like the Mackenzie Zacharias example. They're 21, 22 years old, just out of juniors, world junior champions, great future ahead of them. But realistically thinking, they got in on that second wildcard spot. How much longer down the road is it going to be before they start beating the Jennifer Joneses, the Tracy Fleury's, the Carrie Anersons, right? And that, like, it's not unrealistic to say that could take them 5 to 10 years. And that's detrimental to their development. Whereas if we can find ways to get them into the Canada Cup, other events like that, to play those top teams, that's when we begin to fast track that development.
Matt, I'm going to let you go right away here, but I'm interested to know, you're very vocal about this subject. You're not the only one. There's a lot of people out there that have these kind of changes on their minds, these kind of tweaks. What's the reaction of people to you when you do speak your mind on these things?
That's, you get a little bit of good, little bit of bad. I mean, it comes with the territory and that's the beauty of living in our country, is you're allowed to voice your opinion and how you feel about certain things, and have debates with people and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I enjoy speaking out about certain things, and I want to take that responsibility to help what I see make the game better, grow the game. And that's just my opinion. And I'm more than happy when people come at me with different other opinions and hear their side of it and let them know my side. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about our country. And at the end of the day, all people that are involved in this debate, I hope that all the intentions are in the place of just growing the game, regardless of which side of the debate you're on.
Well, the good news is we've got a great briar going on. You're right in the middle of it, Matt, and I congratulate you on being there, and all the best going forward with the rest of these games. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty exciting week.
Yeah, you betcha. We got a fun one coming our way tomorrow night. So big break here, and looking forward to it.
All right. For Matt Dunstone, I'm Ted Wyman. You've been watching On the Rocks.